have this issue. So in
essential.
Ms. Cherfilis McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much, Ms. Troutman, for being here today to answer our questions. My constituents have vocalized their desire to do more work with Africa, especially when it comes to business. So when this agreement came to fruition, many people were excited about the opportunities. Florida is a global trade gateway, home to major ports and logistic hubs, and increasingly connected U.S. markets to Africa. Stability between the DRC and Rwanda is essential for secure supply chain, responsible mining, material sourcing, and expanded two-way trade that benefits American workers and businesses. As Congress looks at President Trump's Washington Accords, it's important to assess how U.S. engagement can reinforce African-led peace efforts while also supporting economic integration and long-term regional stability. How is the United States working with Rwanda and DRC to advance cross-border trade, infrastructure, and material supply chains in ways that support peace and deliver measurable economic benefits?
Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for the chance to answer that question. The U.S. stands ready to help the DRC and Rwanda implement the regional economic integration framework that I mentioned. So the goal of this framework is to incentivize peace and stability by providing opportunities for the DRC and Rwanda to cooperate on cross-border projects. And we certainly are encouraging U.S. companies to invest in these projects. And we hope to highlight certain efforts that they might want to get involved in as this year progresses. We also hope that we can attract financing, possibly from our tools like DFC and EXIM, to support projects like this that will enforce stability and really bring economic opportunities to the region. I will say that we continue to emphasize that peace and stability is necessary for the DRC and Rwanda to take full advantage of the regional economic integration framework. So we do look forward to supporting and promoting these opportunities, but we do need to see compliance with the peace agreement first.
So do you have any specific incentives that you'll be using, mechanisms to support and encourage people to do business?
Sure. So we are committed to highlighting opportunities in the countries of the Great Lakes region and attracting U.S. support and investment. This could include events hosted in D.C. to connect U.S. companies and advertise these opportunities also to the DFC and EXIM, our financing tools, and connect them with representatives of host governments to advertise these opportunities. So that's something we'll continue to work on as the year progresses. And I would welcome any recommendations you might have from companies that are headquartered in your district.
And what do you believe is a realistic timeline for us to see this coming to fruition?
We certainly hope to see progress this year. We are moving forward on implementing the U.S. DRC Strategic Partnership Agreement already. We hope to have the first meeting of the Joint Steering Committee soon, which will discuss opportunities specifically in the DRC that U.S. companies might be able to invest.
Way ahead of you. Way ahead of you. So, good to know that a meeting is coming up sometime this year, but Terra Ledger is way ahead of you, and that's fine. The DRC is a big place. So during this meeting, I guess what she's saying is government is going to highlight opportunities. Okay, so whenever government tries to steer you this or that way, I mean, it's kind of already a losing battle in my opinion, but it's always good to network. So there is a meeting sometime this year. During this meeting, government will highlight opportunities that U.S. companies can take advantage of, which means that that America really doesn't know anything about Congo, which is fine, except for a few. So sometimes, just sometimes, diversity can be our strength. And in this particular case, yours truly, Claire Sengyumba, because I'm familiar with the region, I was actually able to go to our pilot site in Congo and scope the landscape, see how we can actually go ahead and follow through with President Trump's peacemaking deal availing administration. So let's go back to what Miss Sarah Troutman is saying, which is there's going to be a meeting sometime this year where opportunities will be discussed. Fine. Um, I'm guessing it's going to be in DC. That's fine as well. Maybe I'm thinking we should have one here as well in New Hampshire. Um, but this shows you that there is things are moving along. And so after that meeting, I'm sure companies are going to be more interested because they will probably go over the financing that's going to be available, which is great. But just to let you know that Terra Ledger is way ahead of the curve, which sometimes it's not necessarily always a good thing as well, but that's just where we are. Um, Terra Ledger was on the ground. The CEO of Terra Ledger, yours truly. I went to Rubaia Mine, looked at the landscape. I understand the players. So let's go back to Miss Sarah Troutman and what she's saying.
In, and we certainly hope to host an event convening companies and governments to discuss opportunities under the Regional Economic Integration Framework. So certainly hope to see progress this year.
Wonderful. And what did the African Union facilitate, the talks that were happening in Togo? What did it realistically achieve?
Sure.
The African Union is not self-funded, so we'll just leave it at that. Let's go back to, I want to go over what a representative from Texas had to say because he had very good questions. So let's just jump to what he says here.
And are you committed to making sure that MONUSCO is not forced to continue operating with significantly reduced?
Here we go again. If for those of you who don't know what MONUSCO is, you haven't missed anything. Insignificant at best, and I say at best from what I've seen. But moving on, let's go back to the senator from Texas. So make sure that I can get to what he's saying.
To just highlight is, I think the big winner in all of this, the entity that comes out on top is China, and I think this happens all over the world, as a matter of fact, and it happens a lot in Africa. That China thrives in this environment where there's a lack of physical security and there's a lot of corruption, and I think that describes Eastern DRC, for the last few decades at least. But I think China's taken advantage of it, and I think they've taken advantage of the people in the DRC. And I just wanted to know, are we actively engaging with President Sheikh Hashedi and with the other
President am I even saying it right? You know what, Senator? Go ahead.
other government officials in Kinshasa about the problems with the Chinese? And I would refer to it, I wrote it down here as strategic corruption, because they will promote this instability because it keeps their competitors, Western investment out of these areas. And so until we get past some of that, we need to do that. And I've talked to some American companies that were in the DRC that were subject to this, where they had regulatory burdens put on them. They had overwhelming, unreasonable taxation on their businesses. And some of it was being driven by relationships with the Chinese, with the government in Kinshasa, to promote some of that, to kind of eliminate them as competition. So I think many of my colleagues here have asked, how do we get some of these Western countries, the United States and some of our other allies, to come in and invest in the DRC and invest in become good business partners with the DRC. I think that until we address some of this stuff, it's also exceedingly difficult to do that. So have we had conversations about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Congressman, for the chance to elaborate a bit more on the strategic partnership agreement that the U.S. made with the DRC, because it addresses all of these issues. So we know that Chinese companies have
guys,
a vast...
this document that she's talking about, how many pages is it? I don't know. I'm guessing it's a lot, and you may not be inclined to read it, but please read it. You can find it on, I'm guessing, the Department of State's website. So just go there, and if you Google Congo, Rwanda, you will eventually find yourself looking at the document that she's talking about, which is called the Regional Economic Integrity Framework or Regional Economic Investment Framework, something like that. So, yes, there's a document that explains that probably will answer all of your questions. Go to the Secretary of State's website or the Department of State and find it.
Majority of ownership over critical mineral assets in the DRC, especially copper and cobalt assets. And those are critical for U.S. supply chain security, especially important for our efforts to be dominant in emerging technology and to supply the defense industrial base. So part of the strategic agreement, the strategic partnership agreement with the DRC is aimed at making sure that U.S. companies have preferential access to strategic assets in the DRC, which we will work with the DRC
How
to
are we going to
designate.
do that? So, it's kind of like, the only way we can eventually get preferential access, and this is if we do it the normal way, there are other ways, but let's go with the normal way. How do you supplant a partner? Because PRC is a partner at this point. They've been there forever. How are you going to supplant their influence? We can all, that's a conversation in another forum, but let's move on.
The purpose of that is to get U.S. companies in the door, prevent Chinese companies.
We are already in the door, guys. Terra Ledger is there. We are already in the door. And I'm not sure because the senator from Texas mentioned companies that were facing some hurdles. So I don't know if they're still operational or not. We're there. Okay.
From taking over more of these assets and to make sure that the offtake is coming to the United States to reduce our reliance on the refined minerals coming from China. So certainly this agreement is aimed at reasserting U.S. dominance in the critical minerals sector, also making sure that the DRC is able to profit from its resources, because as you said, Chinese companies often have the lowest standards. They're exploiting the system, they're exploiting corruption, and we certainly don't want to see that. It's bad for U.S. companies trying to invest. It's bad for the people of the DRC. So we are looking forward to implementing this agreement to really cement the opportunities for U.S. companies in the DRC and in these critical mineral supply chains, and also to make sure that China's influence is reduced. And on the issue of corruption, part of the strategic partnership agreement also addresses regulatory issues, making sure that the DRC's mining sector is cleaned up so that U.S. companies can be more confident when they're investing, and that the regulations are easier to navigate. So all of this is aimed at the exact issue that you raised, and that we are very concerned with how embedded Chinese companies are in the DRC.
Well, thank you. When I travel to anywhere in Africa, I make the point, anywhere in the world for that matter, because China with their Belt and Roads program is all over the place. But I make a point to everybody that the U.S. is a much better partner than the Chinese. We're there to, if we make agreements, regarding the natural resources, we're paying for them, and we're paying appropriately for them. We're not robbing these countries of some of their natural resources, which I think is what the Chinese do. But I do think that, like I said before, I think once we get in a situation where we start getting some investment in there, it has to stay in the Eastern DRC. The money does. The vast majority of it has to, people that live and work there, or that would like to work there but live there, have to see the infrastructure building up around this, and they have to see their lives getting better, or quite honestly, it's just not gonna survive long term. So with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, there we go, guys. So the senator from Texas brings up a couple of things that are very important. There are hurdles that must be overcome. He mentioned overtaxation / corruption, and also he kind of went into how working with America is advantageous He compared the American way of doing business with the PRC's way of doing business. And he understands that PRC is a force to be reckoned with at this point because they've been on the ground for a long time. They have invested they have invested their infrastructure. They have systems that have been in place for a while that they have honed. I would say maybe even almost to perfection, where so they have these relationships there. How can we as American companies enter the market in Congo and make a profit eventually? It's going to be difficult. If you're interested in the critical mineral sourcing space, I urge you to reach out to me and I can send you some documentation. We can even talk, we can have a conversation on Zoom or Teams, and I can share what we're going to do. But going back to what the senator was saying, there are going to be hurdles. There are problems. So unless you have a knowledgeable team, your chances of success are going to be very, very small. And that's just how it is. So if you're someone looking for a challenge because Terra Ledger is looking for executive officers, I urge you to reach out. Let's have a chat so I can go over what we plan on doing for Q1, Q2, Q3. What we want to accomplish by Q4 is actually have a batch of refined critical minerals here on US soil, specifically tantalum pentoxide and niobium pentoxide. We're looking to have about 1 ton. Um, available for US companies. So when you're going to buy, so we're looking to have some POs already signed, some master purchase orders. That's also going to help us gain traction as a startup. But just reach out and I can share more documentation. And if you find yourself thinking, well, this is not going to be easy, well, yes, of course. I'm going to share a video from a very good friend of mine. He's a motivational speaker. He's great. So let's just hear what he has to say for those that are apprehensive of the battle ahead. All right, so let's hear him out here. I'm just gonna go right to the beginning.
Yo, my name is Shaquan Tatum. I am your motivational speaker Legion. Hey, this is a 2026 version. You ain't expect this one, right? Hey, your purpose starts right now. It starts today. Take one action. While you're applying a job, start networking. If you've
Reach
already
out.
done that, do the other thing.
Yep.
Do something. Your purpose does not stop. Let's go!
Okay,
Yo, my name is Shaquan.
you heard the man. Okay. We have open seats. We have open executive seats. We're looking for a COO, CTO, CIO. We are fundraising. We're a pre-seed startup. So if you have the right connections, and remember that in the video that we saw just before listening to a little motivation, the funding is there. Okay. The funding is there, the customers are there. So American companies, we already buy this stuff. We buy it from suppliers that are not. So we buy it from suppliers in Europe or in PRC. So we already have the blessing of the Trump administration. Now, all that needs to get done, which I know it's easy for me to say, but all we need to do is actually put in some work. And just as a friendly reminder that even though there's going to be a meeting sometime in DC, sometime in 2026, Terra Ledger is way ahead of the curve. I was on the ground visiting our pilot site. And just to go back to exactly how we're going to go about this, and I can give you more details later. We are going to buy the raw materials. So let's take a step back a little bit. Terra Ledger is a sourcing company. We source critical minerals from Congo DRC and we bring them to the marketplace here in America. How we're going to go about it is we are going to be on the ground. We are going to have modular refining facilities built on the ground in Congo, buy the raw materials from the economy that's already there because there are already miners in Congo. They've been mining. Some of them have been mining for generations. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up shop we're going to have sites that are close to these mining sites. We buy the raw materials from the local population, meaning we actually partake in the local economy. So we buy the raw material, we refine it through our modular refining facilities. Then once it's refined up to US standards, we ship it to our warehouse in New Hampshire. And from New Hampshire, we sell it to whoever needs it for their projects or their manufacturing or their production line. Okay? We need um, executive, we need people to fill executive roles. So if you're looking for a challenge, I urge you to reach out. My name is Claire Sengyumva, and this was just a short commentary about the critical mineral sourcing hurdles that we as a country are facing.